Mike White had a game for the ages yesterday, having one of the best first starts of any quarterback the NFL has ever seen. And I'm starting to hear a lot of rumblings. I'm seeing all the comments. You guys want to know, should we be starting Mike White? Should we be trading one of these guys? The deadline's on Tuesday. So let's talk about it. Mike White versus Zach Wilson. All right, welcome in. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. This is an interesting topic. It's the whole backup quarterback versus starting quarterback. Usually the backup quarterback's the most popular guy in the room because the starting quarterback, he might throw an interception. There's always the what if with this other guy. And now the Jets, with Zach Wilson sitting out, have seen what the backup quarterback can do, and it's got fans' minds exploding all over the place. So let's talk a little bit about yesterday's game. Zach Wilson sitting on the sidelines while Mike White winds up having a career game. He goes 37 for 45. That's an 82% completion percentage, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 1 catch for a 2-point conversion. So what should we make of this? Well, let's just compare the two guys right off the bat. Mike White, he was a 5th-round pick in 2018. He's on a 1-year, $800,000 contract. Zach Wilson, 2nd overall pick this year, has 4 years, $35 million remaining on his contract. White has a 71% completion percentage, where Zach Wilson to date has a 57.5. So when you're looking at the two quarterbacks right off the bat, clearly there were a lot of people in the Zach Wilson camp of, hey, this guy should not start right away. He's coming from BYU. It's a school that doesn't play a lot of big-name schools out there, and he has a lot of good talent on his team where he hasn't had to face pressure. He wasn't able to overcome adversity in college, where Mike White, on the other hand, winds up going in the 5th round, went to Dallas, had the coaching change, sits on the sideline for those 3-4 years, and then comes in and looks like he is ready to run this entire offense. And I can totally understand where Jet fans are coming from with this, because Mike White looked so efficient yesterday. Efficient, I think, is a really good word. When I'm looking at not even the stats, but if you're looking at how each player plays the position. So Mike White, he takes what the defense gives him. By that, I mean of his passes yesterday, and this is including some of the ones that got called back, because I just wanted to figure out where they were aiming the ball some of these times. So behind the line of scrimmage, he had 12 passes. Between 1 and 5 yards, he had 16 passes. Between 5 and 10 yards, he had 8 passes, and 10 plus yards, he had 8. So that's kind of the distribution I would like to see Zach Wilson have. This seems like they set him up to be able to allow his playmakers the ability to make plays with the ball in their hands. He spreads the ball around. I want to say 11 different receivers got involved today, yesterday. So that was really impressive. And most of his passes, like I said, were within that 10-yard mark. In fact, it was 36 of the, 40, whatever I wound up counting. So interesting nonetheless. Interesting. Whereas Zach Wilson, he tends to look for the home run ball. You can tell by the way he holds on to the ball. He's trying to make a play and not just take what the defense gives him. He also locks on to his first receiver, specifically Corey Davis. And it seems like when Davis is on the field, the ball is going to Davis. And it's just a chemistry that's built up. Maybe Mike White has a better chemistry with some of the other players that are deeper on the roster because he's playing with the second team. I don't really know, but I think it's the trust that Zach Wilson has in Davis winds up hurting him by forcing him the ball. I do think Wilson is more accurate downfield passer than Mike White. One of the passes that wound up getting called back for a holding penalty, Elijah Moore was wide open, and there was no pressure on Mike White, and he overthrew him by like 15 yards. Not really the best. But we're looking overall. Well, who can help this team win now? And not even just now, but in the future too, because obviously Zach Wilson's not playing for the next 2 to 3 weeks possibly. They were saying maybe the Bills or Dolphins game is when he could be back. Like I said, Mike White, 1 year, $800,000 contract. So what happens? Let's say at the end of the season, Mike White plays well. Are you considering trading Zach Wilson or Mike White? It's fascinating to me. Now, obviously, the trade deadline is tomorrow. Neither quarterback is going to get moved, barring some sort of massive haul for Mike White. I don't think they're going to give up on Zach Wilson so fast. But yeah, no quarterbacks getting traded until at least the offseason. And even then, I would say probably neither one is getting traded. Now, you might be concerned, okay, what are the Jets going to do with Mike White? If he shows out and he plays well the rest of the year, do we have a Kirk Cousins situation on our hands? Are the Jets going to have to franchise tag this guy? The franchise tag, you're talking like $25+ million for 1 year. And for Mike White, a guy that made $800,000, $25 million, sounds just right. That's a victory for a career, for a lifetime, if you're Mike White. Now, that being said, the Jets have other options. The Jets are able, what Mike White is right now is known as a restricted free agent at the end of this year. So the Jets are going to have the option to place either the original round tender, the second round tender, or the first round tender on him. Let's say, worst case scenario, and maybe by worst, I mean, I guess it's best case scenario, you wind up slapping him with the first round tender. That's going to be worth $5.2 million. And if a team wants to take Mike White away from the Jets, they're going to have to give up a first round pick to do so. And the Jets get the first right of refusal in contract. So if a team offers White 1 year, $12 million, the Jets could match that, and they keep him on their team. Or the Jets could let him walk, and they get a first-round pick. So it's really a good situation for the New York Jets. And with Zach Wilson being worth not a whole lot since he's on his rookie contract, this is a fine amount of money that you could spend on a backup quarterback, considering you just got Flacco, who signed in the offseason with the Eagles for $3.5 million, so just the extra $2 or $1.5 million to keep a guy with a really high upside in Mike White. Not the craziest of ideas. But I want to talk a little bit about Mike White's performance and Zach Wilson and where this could potentially be going. Because I would say I would keep Mike White on the roster, especially, it's one game, you want to see what he does the rest of the season. But I would like to bring him back next year because ideally you have a phenomenal backup quarterback or a really valuable trade chip at next year's trade deadline if Zach Wilson winds up hitting on all cylinders, or maybe Mike White just performs incredibly well and then you have a first-round, number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson that you could likely trade for a first-round pick. It won't be a top 5 pick, but, a year and a half into his contract, I think you could still get a fine return, considering I think Josh Rosen was traded for like a second-round pick or something like that. So I think Zach is just fine there if we were to go that route. But you look at how this game was called, and Mike LaFleur, Jets offensive coordinator, was up in the booth for the first time this season, and it felt like the game totally changed. And now I know Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh wanted to have that bond with Mike LaFleur on the sideline to allow the quarterback to pick his brain. This is something that we didn't see from Adam Gase. He was kind of left Sam to his own, thoughts on the sideline. He never really got any constructive feedback. So I think that was a fair mindset to go into the season with, but it seems clear to me that LaFleur is far more comfortable, and he's made it known, far more comfortable in the booth. I think he's able to call better plays, and I think he's also able to see the defense a lot better from that vantage point because you saw the Jets run to the line of scrimmage on more than one occasion where they were able to catch the Bengals in maybe an unfavorable position group, and they could take advantage of it based on the calls that were made at that point. Now, one thing that is interesting is what happens. What else could there have been? Flacco was on the sideline. Flacco doesn't have a whole lot of influence on this team, but there was another personality on the sideline yesterday. At least we think so. And by we, I mean some of the detectives through the Jet Nation forums. Jets BB came out and he said, hey, I saw a guy in the broadcast. He pauses TV. He winds up taking a screenshot of it, and it looks like John Beck, the quarterback coach for Zach Wilson, was on the sideline. And it's not, I don't believe it's been confirmed, but it looks a hell of a lot like him. I'm pretty sure it is him. And it leaves us with a bunch of interesting thoughts about what's going on. You see him with a headset on. Who's he talking to? Is he talking to LaFleur? Is he talking to the quarterbacks? Who knows? My understanding is that the offensive coordinator is the only one that's able to get in the headset. But I digress. John Beck being on the sideline. What does this mean? Well, Zach Wilson went to John Beck and over the bye week, right? And he's trying to figure out his footwork. He's trying to figure out where he could kind of polish up his game because clearly prior to the bye week, some things were left to be desired. Now, what's the big deal with John Beck? Obviously, Zach Wilson's quarterback coach, a Washington team that inevitably had Shanahan, LaFleur, and McVay all on their coaching staff. So it's not like John Beck is new to this system. He understands this system very well. So well, in fact, that Kyle Shanahan sent 3 of his quarterbacks, Garoppolo, Mullins, and Beathard, to go to John Beck's quarterback camp. And this is something that there is obviously a confidence in this man to develop quarterbacks and to understand this particular style of system. So the obvious question here is, hey, why didn't the Jets try to hire John Beck if it makes so much sense that he be on the sideline for Zach Wilson? And this is something where he scripted the plays for Zach Wilson's pro day, for Trey Lance's pro day, and for Justin Fields' pro day. So he has a lot of knowledge across the board with a bunch of different quarterbacks. So why is he not on the sideline from the start of the season with Zach Wilson? And there's an interesting dynamic here. One, John Beck didn't really feel like he wanted to get into coaching, first off. And second off, if he does get into coaching and he is on the Jets, that would mean Zach Wilson could not participate in his camps in the offseason. So I don't know if this is John Beck. Does that mean Zach Wilson now loses his quarterback coach in the offseason? Do the Jets fire John Beck? Is he just a consultant right now? I have no idea what's going on. Maybe this is just some really close lookalike to John Beck and it has nothing to do. I think him standing next to Flacco with a headset on probably means that this is in fact John Beck here. But it's interesting, right? There's a whole lot of things going on for the New York Jets. You have Mike White, who performed phenomenally well, albeit he allowed his playmakers to make plays. He didn't put himself in a lot of bad positions, kind of where Zach Wilson is throwing the ball into double coverages. He's kind of trying to make the boom play and not the easy play that the defense is giving him. So the Jets have a good problem here. You have 2 potentially good quarterbacks, 2 potentially, they're really young quarterbacks. I mean, how old is Mike White? 26 years old, and Zach Wilson's like 22. So you have young players at a valuable position, especially when you see guys like Jameis Winston go down with an injury or Dak Prescott not play yesterday. So having a backup quarterback is absolutely huge. So yes, I do think the Jets should hold on to Mike White. I do think he should continue to start moving forward as well. As long as he's playing, he doesn't have to have a 400-yard game. But if he has a 250, 300-yard game and the Jets offense is moving and moving at a good clip, the offense is clicking, I'm all about it. I'm fine with him starting. I would like to see Zach Wilson come back in at some point this season, but if White works, let it happen. The Great White Shark versus Wall Street Wilson. That's the movie title, right? It's like King Kong versus Godzilla. That's what we're getting here. Either way, the Jets are setting themselves up for a very big offseason. You're able to have $53+ million in salary cap space before making any cuts. You have 9 draft picks all within the top 5 rounds, and it looks like you could have a very healthy quarterback competition here at the start of next year. Now, one thing that I do want to touch on, something that I thought was a little interesting, and it felt like the team was more fired up with Mike White at quarterback than they were with Zach Wilson at quarterback. And I don't know if that is a product of... Well, let me talk about what I mean by that. Like, the team looked to have rallied around Mike White, where Wilson, when he got hit low last week, and then he got hit late by Judon, it didn't feel like the offensive line was around him. There was no anger. Usually the center or the guards will get up and start pushing guys around and be upset that their quarterback just got knocked out, and that's not really what you saw here. So there is an interesting dynamic at play, and I think it is something worth watching. Now, I do think that Zach Wilson is going to learn a lot from Mike White. He'll be able to see exactly how this offense can operate and how efficiently it can operate. And just see, look, you don't have to play hero ball to be the hero. Mike White did something that no Jet quarterback has ever done in the 400+ yards in his starting career, or starting first career game. 3 touchdowns. I don't even think Cam Newton had 3 touchdowns in the game that he had his first game. Good issues. Good issues if you're the New York Jets. Some confusing stuff, going to make for some good talk radio. I'm sure I'll talk with the Jets X Factor guys, with O'Leary and Greenbean tomorrow. It's going to be interesting nonetheless, and I want to hear your comments. Let me know in the comments down below. Would you like to trade one of these guys? Do you have any sort of conviction one way or the other on who is the better quarterback? Why were the Jets so effective yesterday against the Cincinnati Bengals? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, go Jets. J-E-T-S!